One interesting and maybe not so pleasant finding was that there were obstacles. There were obstacles to the cooperation, and they could be defined as language barriers, cultural divide, historical cultural divide, and distinct different administrative systems. Tourism was the main driver of regional development. Building up on this past history, I'm planning to present 6 theses on disaster governance. My first thesis concerns coastal management in its historic emergence, and the basic rationale for ICM had been originally to enhance sustainable coastal development by means of stakeholder involvement and through spatial planning. Unexpectedly, however, another factor became dominant, namely violent coastal destruction through natural forces. Until then, we had our main problem was unsustainable economic development, which would have caused gradual destruction in coastal environments. When we look at the tsunami hazard map, we can see the following. According to the National Geographic, the riskiest spot on Earth is West Sumatra, around the city of Padang. Unsurprisingly enough, this area, the city of Padang, was hit by the tsunami on December 26 in 2004. Many people died, and the tsunami caused the destruction of the total coastal system. An early warning system, tsunami early warning system, was installed in 2008. Before that, the people of Padang united under the leadership of their mayor, but not only, in close cooperation with local NGO, and practiced evacuation exercises. My second thesis: it is very difficult for a tsunami early warning system to match the speed of tsunamis. Capacity building measures in the sense of disaster preparedness must be part of the system. And third, we do need the support of an ICM frame as concept, as strategy, and the ICM frame is necessary to coordinate the different measures, adaptive measures and preventive measures. My second example is the Hurricane Katrina and Katrina's lessons. The catastrophe caused by Hurricane Katrina on August 29, 2006 came as no surprise. As people said, this was a disaster waiting to happen. And we were informed about that at the Coastal Zone meeting 2005 in later July in New Orleans, a few weeks before Katrina struck the city. The hurricane came as no surprise. Katrina killed people, destroyed homes, and much of the city's infrastructure, including education and research facilities. One of our dear colleagues whom we missed today in Chennai, Nancy Rabelais, experienced not only Katrina, but the hurricanes before and after quite closely. And I was in touch with her during that period of time, and she sent me plenty of emails describing her situation and how things evolved. So she talked about rising waters, having to evacuate the first floor, trying to rescue the instruments and tools, crocodiles approaching. And one thing that sounds strange but struck me, she told me that it's getting harder and harder to remember the names of the different hurricanes. There were so many. Interestingly enough, what happened 18 months later? The lab is functioning well, coastal research is booming. The problem is everyone has their favorite project for saving, quote unquote, coastal Louisiana. And Nancy Rabelais' assessment was they are not seeing the science behind wetlands, and they're not seeing the consequences of their action. So this combines a science statement, maybe science policy statement, and let me call it ethico-political statement. I come back to that. What are the planning results from a coastal management perspective? You know, the levees had been built up again. New Orleans will be somewhat safer, but there's no doubt that the city will still be subject to flooding in the future, and most probably the danger from storms will even increase. Thesis 4, the predicted economic scenario was confirmed by reality. World market prices soared, reserves were tapped. A local natural disaster produces economic and social repercussions that were felt globally. I'm not talking here about the fact that much of this problem was induced by humans and maybe false policies. In 2006, a 500-page committee report, the so-called bipartisan committee report, stated there was a wholly inadequate response, and the devastation was the result of a failure of leadership at all levels of government. They detailed this fact in many respects. We don't have time to go into details. Other people learned their lessons following Katrina. In the northeast of the United States, in New England, the lessons were learned in Cape Cod, Massachusetts, where evacuation would not be possible because there are only 2 bridges leading from the island to the mainland. So shelters were designated, storage units located, and an emergency preparedness handbook was written. Soon after, an unpredicted winter gale de-roofed houses, devastated gardens, smashed stone walls. Fortunately, no one killed. In the international arena, 2 goals appear to be most important: develop coasts sustainably and reduce poverty among coastal populations. Sustainably, of course, is a normative concept. Whatever the perceived risks are, we need to choose. Coastal governance and management are matters of societal choice. The public discourse takes place in the political arena, and their justifications are found in moral arguments. The US National Research Council suggests 2 integrative functions of coastal research. One, to contribute to the understanding of the natural and human system. The other one, to structure interaction in socially desirable ways, in ways that are socially desirable. So again, you have a science argument and you have a normative, ethical, or maybe political argument, as did Nancy Rabelais and as we heard before. These 2 functions rely on an interdisciplinary approach between natural and social sciences, and this is thesis 6, and they do include moral norms in a framework of social communication. Policy making is normative. These norms are never derived from science. We have to be very clear about that. Science supplies the knowledge background only, nothing else. My conclusion, planning on the coast requires visions. These visions need to be generated within society by civil society discourses, and this includes values, norms, needs, interests, and it needs a political system, a functioning political system to implement them. ICM may serve as a governance framework to provide such visions, and a tool that seems to become more and more important is spatial planning. Spatial planning is a more formalized approach to deal with the allocation of resources, of space, of users, and coastal planning may resolve coastal conflict. Spatial planning contributes to the more informal approach as represented by ICM governance. I summarize. This presentation introduced integrated coastal management as a science and management approach to achieve sustainable coastal development. The issue of governance gained importance, and more recently, the issue of coastal hazards came to dominate much of the coastal management problematique. Thank you. This is the end.